Uncle Rolf worked at the Jordan Brush Factory in Erken. There he stood at a machine all day making sure the bristles were properly inserted into the holes of the red, green, and blue toothbrushes. Such a waste of time, Arvid thought, making toothbrushes, day in, day out. But 2 weeks after Dad returned home from Denmark, he was standing at his own machine next to Uncle Rolf's. Uncle Rolf had gotten the job. It was unbearable. And on top of that, Uncle Rolf liked his job, even though he was always reading the Reader's Digest and that sort of magazine and telling them how he was going to start up his own business. Patents, imports, and rubbish like that. He liked talking. There was nothing he loved more than the sound of his own voice when he was speaking about all the things he was going to do. And though Arvid was so small that no one thought he understood a thing, he did understand that Uncle Rolf would be making toothbrushes for the rest of his life. Not that he talked that much about toothbrushes. Everyone must have known that there were limits to how much you could say about something as stupid as toothbrushes. Shoes, on the other hand. There was a lot to say about them. Gym shoes, smart shoes, ladies' shoes, children's shoes, ski boots, riding boots. Dad talked a lot about shoes, and he knew what he was talking about. But now it was over. Now you couldn't even say the word soul aloud. If you did, Dad would lose his temper.
"In this house we wear shoes, we don't talk about them. Is that clear?" he said.
And then there was silence, although Arvid could easily see that his mother was annoyed by all the detours they had to take. Downstairs in his cellar room, the piles of toothbrushes were mounting up. They were the seconds that Dad had been given at work, with handles that were too short or bristles missing. Soon they would have enough toothbrushes to last them into the next life, if such a thing existed. But Dad didn't believe that, and neither did Mom. Arvid was not so sure, because Gran in Denmark said something different, and she ought to know. She went to church every Sunday, and she composed hymns. Arvid hated those toothbrushes inside their plastic bags, sorted by color. They took up space and were pushing the shoe samples out of the closet, and the rolls of leather and the lasts and the shoemaking tools Dad used to repair their shoes with when the toes were yawning or a heel fell off. Arvid used to sit on a stool watching, and there was the good smell of leather and his dad's back that was fine to look at when he was working.
"What are you doing now, Dad?"
"I'm experimenting,"
they might say to each other, and Dad did that a lot. Spent time pondering all sorts of problems that there must have been with shoes. Now that too was over. And one day Arvid saw his dad carrying out the rolls of leather and the shoe samples and stuffing them into the dustbin by the bullfinch tree. Then he was back down in the cellar, and there was a terrible pounding on the stairs, and after a while he came up, panting, with a huge basket of shoe lasts. Lasts of all sizes, elegant and shiny with their varnish, and they had been such a wonderful sight on the shelf in the lumber room where they used to be, and they seemed to be dancing. Dad put down the basket in the middle of the living room floor, and then he threw the lasts, one after the other, into the old black Yortul stove with its lion feet, and they burned well with an intense red flame.
"That's it, Arvid,"
Dad said with an ugly laugh, and his face looked just like a rock.
"Now I'm a man without shoes."
"I know,"
Arvid said.
"Now you're a man with toothbrushes."
And even though he was only 1.15 meters tall and pretty slight, his voice was so heavy with scorn that at first his dad stared at him, and then went into the kitchen, and he slammed the door after him.